Hi, Dr. Alex here, and welcome to a film which is a sequel to the marvelous musical mayhem of the DIY record box 1x12 Celestion speaker cabinet. Obviously, this video had to be made because I still had one more Celestion 1x12 speaker from the Vox cabinet I built and changed the speakers on earlier. So, eventually, I went out and bought a new old vinyl record box and made another. Now, it only took me about an hour or two to make. Obviously, the experience of making the first one made it a little quicker, and I only burnt one of my fingers on the soldering iron in the process. So, without further ado, let's go through the entire process again, fairly quickly, because, you've seen it once already. Step one was, of course, buying the box, the vinyl record storage box from a second-hand junk shop in Crystal Palace. This time I was wise to their cunning pricing and went down to the basement and found the cheapest, already black vinyl record box that I could find, which cost a princely £6. Definitely a bargain. The first step after having procured the box is, of course, to cut the hole in the front. Once again, I used a plate which is slightly smaller than the diameter of the speaker, so it wouldn't slip through, and used that to trace around in order to cut out accurately. And then, once again, attack the box with a kitchen knife that was just about the right sort of width that you could actually turn it while cutting. It was a little rough, and you can see from the pictures it came out a little bit rough, but perfectly fine for use around the house and for transporting from one place to another if you wanted to use it on holiday, for example. Step 3 was then to cut the speaker cloth. Fortunately, I had yet another piece of speaker cloth left over from a previous project where I'd never actually used it, so this was brand new, untouched speaker cloth, and so I cut out a nice rectangle from that, used my reasonably powerful stapler to fix it inside the box, initially around the edges of the box towards the edges of the actual speaker box itself, and then slightly closer to the circular hole to give a tighter fit around the hole. Once the speaker cloth was in place, I then made bolt holes to attach the speaker to on the inside. Then, of course, I put the bolt through. Then I slipped the Celestion speaker over the top of the bolts, which fit beautifully because I measured it all up again to make sure it would fit. And then I attached the nuts, tightened them up, and amazingly, that was basically it. Except I had nothing to plug it in with. So I made another hole for a jack. Now, at this point, I was running very low on sockets, I should say, and I had to go up into the loft and find an old guitar that was basically dead and take off its socket, remove it from the actual plate that goes into the guitar, and that actually turned out to be quite easy and straightforward, and I was able to bolt it in place using the nuts that came with it. Very simple. The final stage, of course, was to then attach the wires from the speaker to the socket and make sure that they matched the plus and minus on the other cabinet one, so they were both basically being driven in the same way. Finally, I then tidied things up a little, and then it came to testing. The first test I did was the new speaker cabinet on its own, and it sounds identical, I would say, to the first speaker cabinet. There is no structural difference between the two. There's no surprise there. But here you go. Here is the first test. Then I tested both the first speaker cabinet and the second speaker cabinet together, connected in parallel, and this was much more cool to my ears. There is less impedance when they're rigged up this way, in fact half the resistance you'd expect with one cabinet, and therefore the Mini Vox AC30 jack amplifier finds it much easier to drive the two speakers together than one on its own. So you get much more oomph and much more fun, as you can hear here. So, there you go. You've seen both the original speaker cabinet and the new speaker cabinet in action, and I hope you find this video useful in terms of inspiring you to do something similar, and at least fun in hearing me yammer on about making the thing and then messing around with it. Anyway, I think I've done just about as much as I can with this, so I would thank you all for listening, and hope that you join me in the next video, whatever that may be, and in the meantime, take care. Thank you.